Okay, I'm going to walk you through a quick demo of the HelloData interface, show you how to search a property, create a market survey, add and remove comps, and analyze rents in very granular detail with the platform. So when you first log in, you'll see a dashboard with property reports that you've run previously here. You can filter by report owner or by tags and filter the results of your dashboard. Or you can search a particular report, and as you'll see here, if I search 111, I've done that demo plenty of times, so it makes it easy to find reports you've run previously. If you're coming into it from scratch, this will be blank, and you can start a new report by going to the upper right and clicking New Report. Now, when you click that, it's going to present you with a search field where you can enter your property name or address, and we're going to pull up that property and show you some high-level info on it. So let me use the 111 property here for the demo. So I search it in the dropdown. I don't have to complete the full property name, and I'll see it in the dropdown, and I can select the one that I want to analyze. Now, when you first pull up a property, we're going to present some high-level info on that property just to show you that you're on the right deal. So we'll show you average rents by bed count, kind of a high-level summary. This will go all the way down to individual unit level, showing the full price history of each unit once you generate the report. So number of stories, number of units, year built, and then since we only use publicly available data, we actually don't have occupancy, right? We don't know units that you are not marketing that are offline for some reason. What we see is what is marketed as available for move-in right now today compared to the total number of units in the building, implying that these units are vacant. So we show that as lease percent, and then for exposure percent, we show all the units that will be vacant over the next 6 months, ones where a notice to vacate has been issued and so they're not going to renew, and those are the numbers that we use in place of occupancy. That's a constraint of only using what's publicly available, but it gives you a good sense of how these properties are performing. The big differentiator for us in sourcing your rent comps, and I'll show you how we do that in a sec, is that we actually have a computer vision model that analyzes all the listing photos and determines the condition and quality of each room and common area that we observe in those photos. This helps us get properties that are similar, not just in terms of things like year built and number of units, but in terms of the look and feel, the condition and quality of these assets. And so you just saw that I pressed the Suggest Comps button. What our algorithm does from there is it goes out and it finds statistically very similar properties within your market that compete with your property. They're very, very similar assets. We show the full breakdown of similarity under this score. So if you click the similarity score for any of the comps, you'll see how similar they are in terms of the submarket down to the census tract level. The physical distance, so distance here is physical distance, and it's really a measure of the density of the market. So we're basically accounting for, if you have a very dense market, you shouldn't go 10 miles away to find your next comp. This is quite a dense market, downtown Chicago, so we're penalizing even a small distance away from the subject because there are a lot of comps pretty close by. Number of units, vintage, stories, the overlap of the unit mix and unit types, all kind of table stakes for comps. Of course, we include these, but the advantage comes down to the quality that we get from the photos and the overlap of about 200 different amenities that we standardize and compare across any two assets. This gets us in some comps that align with appraiser rent comp recommendations 9 out of 10 times. But that being said, you don't have to go with our comp recommendations. If you disagree and you think Gallery on Wells is not a good comp, feel free to remove it. You just click this trash icon to the right and you can easily remove a comp. And then you'll see that there's a search field here. So if you want to add a comp that we did not identify, even if that property is debatably a good comp, like this 5050 North Sheridan, you can see it's very different vintage, very different number of units and number of stories. And if you click into it, we're going to tell you that this isn't really that similar of a comp. You can add whatever you want, though. It's completely up to you. So I just add this for illustrative purposes, and I will remove it from the comp set. Now, two other things to point out really quick before we move on. You do have settings on the comp, so if you want to put a max radius or a min and max unit count or year built, you can do that. You can also search for value add comps. Because we do the computer vision model, you can search for comps that are the next level up in terms of condition and quality, and we'll use that data to surface those comps, kind of show you where you can push rents to. And we aim for rent premiums of $150 to $200. So that's how we calibrate our computer vision model. If you use those comps, those should give you a very good indication of where you could push rents if you were to renovate to a similar level of finish. And then finally, we do have email notifications. So if you want to set this up, you can have it send whenever you want, and it will send you updated rent, availability, and concessions data for all of these properties you've selected. So when I click and generate the report, now it's going to get a lot more detailed as I scroll down the page here. So the first tab, I'm on this rent comps tab. Now there are 4 tabs. You've got rent comps, unit level insights, fees and amenities, and expense benchmarks. I'll cover each. But at the top, you also have report filters. Now these global filters will apply to everything in the page, right? So we have one for which properties are displayed, the unit types, the listing status, amenities, and date range. So say I want to look at, in this average rents by unit type table, say I want to look at just the 1-bed, 1-bath units. I just come up here to select unit types and then click 1-bed, 1-bath, and now everything in the report has been filtered, and I can see my 1-bed, 1-bath rent relative to the average of the comp set. Now, one of the things that's very interesting about our platform and pretty unique is that we're actually tracking every single day. So we're tracking about 3 million properties across the US, about 25 million units in total. And every day we track so that we can capture the last price at which each unit leaves the market, because that's the best indicator of what ends up on the rent roll. So when you come up to listing status up here, you'll see that you can actually look at active versus recently closed listings. And there's oftentimes a differential there. You know, people can ask for whatever they want, where they end up closing that last price at which the unit is removed from the market. That's the best indicator of what they actually got. And so you can see it in the table here when I toggle between these. You know, the average asking rent is higher. But if I go to only close, what has recently closed, you'll see it's quite a bit lower. So in this market, people are starting off higher than where they're ending up. You can see this too in the pricing strategy panel over to the left. So here, looking at Wolf Point East, we can tell that they're unlikely to be using revenue management based on how frequently or infrequently they're updating their pricing. We can tell how long a price remains at one level before it moves up or down. And we can tell the difference between the first time each unit appears on the market and where it ends up closing. In this case, negative 0.8%. Every property has this pricing strategy panel. Here you can see for Hubbard Place, they are likely to be using revenue management. The duration of the price is 4 days before it moves up or down. And then there's a 2.5% decline from the first time we see each unit enter the market to where it leaves the market. Right, so really useful data to understand on your competition. It gives you context for the pricing you see on those property websites. Now, from here, I'll take the filters off. And one other thing you probably noticed is that we have this effective rent column here. Now, since we're tracking 3 million properties, we're definitely not calling to get concessions data, especially not every day across the US. That would be a crazy number of calls to make. What we do is we go to the banner on the property website and we see what is being offered, and we apply AI to this to extract not only the dates over which it's active, but any deadlines around it, if it applies to any specific unit, which in this case it doesn't, and then the number of free months or one-time discounts or recurring dollars off. And if a unit leaves the market between these two dates, we're going to apply this concession and amortize it over the lease term. Right, so that's how we get to our effective rent numbers, and that's how we populate this average effective rent column that you see in this table. From there, scrolling down, we have our estimated unit mix. So, you know, because we're only using publicly available data, we don't have to wait for people to integrate their property or send us a rent roll or anything like that. We're observing only what has been publicly listed. Now, that is an advantage because it eliminates the potential for antitrust risk issues when you're trading non-public data to help price rents. But it's also a disadvantage because we don't have the exact unit mix. Now, what we do to estimate what the unit mix looks like is we look at how many units are associated with each unique floor plan that we see in the listings. What percent of all the listings does that make up? And then how many units of the 491 we've observed are likely to be associated with that particular floor plan. And if we drop this down, the beauty of this approach is that we're actually showing every individual unit we've seen. We're reconstructing the rent roll for each of these properties in real time as we see new units hit the market. So these are the specific units for the studio alcove. Here's how long they were on the market. Here's the date they leased, or the day the listing was removed, the square footage, the floor number, the asking, and the effective rent, including concessions on the day this unit was taken down from the market. And we do this for all the floor plans and all the units in the property, but because we don't have to wait for anyone to integrate, we also do this for every one of your competitors, right? So if you look at Amley River North, we're doing the same thing. We're reconstructing their unit mix from publicly available data. And if you drop this down, you can see their activity as well. Every lease they've signed, every unit that has leased over the time frame we've been analyzing. Now, what's great about these tags here, you probably noticed this is present on this property, but not on the previous one we looked at. Well, this actually shows the unit level amenities. So we can see specifically what things they're advertising on the property website for this particular unit. So we can see it's a light fixture upgrade, upgraded home. They're basically, this is a renovated unit. And it's got, seems like it's got a nice view being on level 31, right? So all of that factors into the price that they're able to achieve. And we give you transparency into all of that data at the unit level and then summarized at the floor plan level. So I encourage people to try this out. We can do it for every one of your comps, and you can get a very detailed look at how people are pricing and what they're able to achieve in the market using this estimated unit mix. Scrolling down, you've got a few different ways to visualize the data in the UI. So here we're looking at the rent comparison. This is showing by unit type the rents that different properties are achieving. Now it starts off colored by unit type. You can switch it to property, so you can view all the different properties within this. You can look at it by time on market to give you a sense of which units are leasing most quickly. And you can look at it on a rent basis versus a rent per square foot basis. And you can see that kind of linear relationship between rent and square footage. Scrolling down further, you've got the historical rent trends. Now this will go back all the way to June of last year when we started collecting data. So if I go filter here, it's going to show the entire trend for the subject all the way from June 17th to the comp set, that median of the comp set. Now, what's great about this is not that we're showing a trend because, you know, a lot of different platforms show trends. What we do that's very different is we get very, very granular, right? So if you click any chart or graph in the interface, we're actually going to show you all the underlying data, every unit that was on the market during that time frame, with granular detail on those particular units and their full price history. So if we look at this Mila property, unit 1809, 18th floor, 860 square feet, we saw that it entered the market on 3/8 and it was leased on 4/16, 40 days on the market in total. If I click over here on this clock icon, I'll actually get a pop-up that shows the whole price history for the entire time that unit was on the market. It entered the market on 3/8 at a price of $33.15. The price went up, it went down a bit more. At this point, we see that they started offering a concession that was active from 3/21 to 3/31. So on 3/21, we see the effective rent at $31.82, including that $1,000 off one-time concession. Now, as time went on, that special went away. So on 3/31, the special burned off, the deadline expired. And on 4/4, they put a new concession in place. So you can see that that 1 month free rent concession is now accounted for. And so you follow this unit all the way to the last price at which it left the market at 28.05. That's quite a big difference from where it started off. And there's now a 1 month free rent concession, bringing the effective to 25.71. This is the automation and level of granularity that we offer in the interface, just to save you having to do these calculations yourself. For any unit where there is these three lines next to the clock icon, this is a unit with varying lease terms. So it's going to show all the different lease terms that were being offered, and the best price is going to be highlighted, and that happens to be the 11 month in this case. There's more than a $200 difference when you go up to the 12 month. So they clearly don't want you to pick the 12 month option, and so we display the best price in the interface, and that's at 11 month, and you can see the best term being highlighted here. All right, so something to note, if you see this best term and you see the three lines next to it, that means that there's there are different lease terms being offered, and the best term is going to be the one that we call out here. Now, scrolling down, more ways to visualize similar data. We've got the weekly market activity. So here I'll put this to the 90 days just to show the graph a bit more clearly. So this will show each week every unit that enters the market and every unit that leaves the market, or as we assume is leased each week. This is a graph that some of our biggest property manager clients use almost every day, right? Because it shows you in real time every day what is happening in the market and how is that changing week over week. So if I look at just last week, so today's a Monday, so we're starting to collect data. This part of the graph will be updated as of tomorrow with any units that were removed from the market. But here we see from last week, 69 units left the market. Here are the particular units that were removed from the market. We see unit 3703. We see when it was first made available, or when it will be available for move-in, I should say, when it entered the market and when it leased, and how long it was on the market, right? So in this case, pretty short price history, is only on for a couple weeks, and then it was removed right when they added that 1 month free rent concession, right? So the effective rent, $25.42 in this case. We do this not just for the subject, of course, but for every one of the comps. So it gives you a really good sense of what's happening in the market in real time. And just to note, this is all responsive to the filters as well. So if I wanted to come up here and say, I only want to look at the 1-bed units, it's going to filter those results to just the 1-bed units that left the market during that week. So from here, the last graph on this page is the future availability graph. This we get by going to the property website directly and clicking into, well, we don't click into it, the script that we've developed clicks into every future move-in date for the next 6 months on the property website. Because if you select different move-in dates, you see different units that are available on those dates in the future. So if you click this chart, you're actually going to see all the units that will be available on that particular week, and where are they currently being advertised, what are the best terms being offered, and how long have they been on the market. You'll see all of these are active, right? So these are units that will be available for move-in on these future dates. Good way to see who you'll be competing with if you were to bring your units to market at the end of July here. So it's just a good indicator of what else will be on the market and available for move-in at that time. Now from there, let's go to the Unit Level Insights tab. At the very top of this tab, you'll see basically all of the data that we show in the interface. This is everything powering the UI. If we go back to June of last year when we started collecting data, this is going to reflect 1,800 units from every single property in your comp set. And just 111 has had a bunch, but if you look through the comps, plenty of units. Every unit that has been on the market is going to be reflected in this table. And you have filters here. In addition to the filters up top, you have filters here where you can get even more granular, filter by asking rents, effective rents, by floor plans, whatever you can imagine you've got in this filter. So this gives you the ability to slice and dice the data and see some high-level stats on the data that you have filtered above. And then, of course, you can download this straight in a CSV. Now, this is a good time to note, in addition to all the filters that you have here for this table, you do have a global filter for amenities at the top of the interface. Now, what we do here, we get straight from the property website, and from the images of the floor plans themselves, we detect which amenities and attributes are present for each individual unit. These are at the unit level. And if a unit has a balcony or patio, or is a corner unit, or is a penthouse, or has been recently renovated, we're going to allow you to filter that data using this dropdown. Okay, so it's only going to show the units that have the attributes that you select. It gives you a good way to look at renovated versus classic, or the premium for a corner unit, or how much is a balcony worth. This lets you add a filter globally and see all the units that have those attributes, and then compare them across the board to get to what those rent premiums are likely to be. Scrolling down from there is the reason that we go to this level of granularity. So the pricing recommendations here, this for every active listing in the subject property, we actually provide a price recommendation based on what has recently leased in the market or what is currently actively listed and competes very closely with your specific unit. So in this case, 111, I'm looking at a 1-bed, 1-bath. This is a 617 square foot unit, been on the market 26 days. And if I look at what is actually moving in the market that is similar, this is a floor plan level similarity where we're looking at each of these units in competing properties and judging how similar it is to the floor plan that you are trying to price. We show for the ones that are that have recently leased, we'll show a lease date. For those that are active listings, we'll show a dash here indicating that it's still on the market. And here is the last price that we observed for each of these units. So on this table, you have some flexibility. You know, if you disagree with a floor plan comp, you can always come in here and say, nah, I don't think those are good comps. I want to remove those, and then scroll up and click remove units. We're going to update the price recommendations based on those selections and then bring more floor plan comps into the list. Likewise, you have control up top where say you want to expand it, or you want to constrain it, I should say, to only what has closed, get a little bit more conservative, or exclude the subject altogether. If I do these things, I can recalculate, and then we're going to deliver a new price recommendation, which in this case is more conservative because we're only looking at what has closed and not what is actively listed. So it's a really good way to see, you know, how these units should perform, and you have some control over it. It's a purely market-driven pricing recommendation using a floor plan comps-based approach. Now from here, we have the fees and amenities tab. Now the main value of this tab is the fees up top. This gives you a sense of where your competitors are pricing their application, admin, storage, etc. A lot of times I go into demos and I see, you know, the subject property is actually underpricing relative to the market. So this gives you a quick sense of where you could set fees based on what others are doing in the market. Just a great resource. Below that, we'll show all the concessions historically that have been offered. So, you know, here we're filtering to just active, but if I go all, well, there's quite a history of concessions across all these properties. So good if you want to go get granular and dig into the historical concessions. And then below that, we have our amenities and finishes grid, which will show you the outputs of our computer vision model up top. So this is going to show the comparison of the overall, and then the beds, kitchens, baths. This is what we extract from the listing photos for each of these properties. And so you can see where you sit relative to the market in terms of the outputs of our computer vision model. This is a representation of the condition and quality of each of these rooms and common areas across your comp set. And below that, we have our amenity grid. So this will allow you to do a side-by-side comparison at the building or unit level, looking at over 200 different amenities across building and unit level. and you can add whatever you want and compare side by side. Completely up to you how you use this, but we've put it all here in a pretty easy to compare side by side grid. Then finally, the last tab ties it all together. This we call expense benchmarks. So what we're doing here is a year one underwriting of the deal as a stabilized asset. So if you're looking at a lease up property, this is going to show you what it would look like if it's fully leased up, being operated at market. If you put a new development in, which I'll show you how to do in a sec, this will work just like an existing property and show you what year one operation should look like. What we do for this is we have a database of about 25,000 real multifamily operating statements across the US. We get from purchase sources as well as public data, and we train a model using all of that to predict each individual line item as a function of similar properties in your market. But the difference is we're not just averaging your closest comps, we actually have a model that controls for the differences, the size, age, quality, amenities, and location across all these properties, and holding everything else constant predicts how your particular property should perform as a function of its attributes. So this will be a more accurate representation than if you were to average expense comps, for example. We actually get to under 10% median error nationwide in predicting NOI with this model. So it gives you a very quick sense if you're putting your business plan together for a property and it's a market where maybe you don't have a ton of data, this will give you a good sense of how that property should be able to perform based on the operations of similar assets. The thing to note here, we're not pulling real estate taxes from county records, right? We're looking at it on this, we're generating that line item based on the machine learning model, right? So if you have the actual taxes, it's going to be more accurate than what we're showing here. If it's a new development, though, this will give you a really good sense of what it might look like if that were completed today. Now, last few things I'll touch on here. We have the exports in the upper right. So if you want to do an Excel or PDF export, you have flexibility to do that. The PDF will allow you to choose which sections you include, so you have full flexibility there. And then you can choose to do it as a high quality or keep it as a regular quality PDF. This will reflect exactly what's in the interface, right? So all the filters you apply are going to be reflected in this export. You have full control over what you show in the PDF export. The Excel export is actually going to contain all the raw data, unfiltered, and it will show side by side, 30, 60, 90-day average for the comp set, as well as the exported expense benchmarks, all the other unit level data. It's all going to be in Excel with no filters applied. Just something to note, Excel is raw, the PDF is filtered. And then, of course, you can share reports with external parties by either typing their emails here or generating a public link down below. And this will be valid for 30 days. You can share this to anyone, like a third-party owner or collaborator, and they'll have access to the property report without editability. They'll just be able to see what you've set up here. Now, the last thing, the second to last thing, I'll show you how to use the support in a sec. But the second to last thing I want to point out is that you do have the ability to run a completely new ground-up development model using our system. So if I type in the very common 123 Main Street, put in a property name, it could be anything. Call it West Chicago Apartments. Say it's 200 units. It's built in 2025. Maybe it'll come online next year. And then we'll say it's a 3-story property because it's in a kind of suburban location in West Chicago. Now, note that I'm picking here excellent quality because it's going to be a brand new ground up development. Very important, you don't want to forget to put quality in and then it will model it as if it's an older property. You put in all the different attributes. This system is going to recommend, based on the 50 most similar buildings and all of the units within them, what is the most prevalent unit mix in the market. So it's going to recommend a unit mix for you. And you could use the recommended, or you can input it yourself We see some power users like fly through this and put in all the floor plans for new development. This just gives you a starting point. You don't have to go with it. And then we give you recommended amenities based on what's most frequent in the market. So you could choose to use that, or you could choose to get Granular. It doesn't make too big of a difference if you check the gated community access versus all the other stuff. It's just one other attribute. But if you from here just use the default assumptions and go create the property, it's actually going to go out and run the exact same report as if this property exists today. So you're going to see all the comps that we recommend, the whole interface populated, and importantly, the pricing recommendations on this unit level insights tab that give you a sense of where these units should be priced if they existed today. We're not inflating years out. We're saying if it existed right now today with the attributes that you put in, what rent could it achieve, right? So it's a conservative model for pricing. Then finally on this, make sure you save report in the upper right. That it generates a preview when you use the quick search here. So this will be a preview. It'll always be orange at the top like that. And then you got to click save report to be able to keep that on the dashboard and come back to it. And then of course you can always go edit this just like any other property. Remove comps, add comps if you want just by typing them in the field. Same concept applies. So now this property will be treated as if it exists today, and you could interact with it the same way you would any other property. Now, last thing to note, if you have any questions at all while you're going through the interface, please don't hesitate to reach out. This support and feedback button in the lower left will have a direct line to us and our team. We will be here available 24/7. Someone is monitoring this all the time to see if questions come in. There have been times we've answered customer service requests at like 2 a.m., right? Because we have some people in other parts of the world helping us out. We're 100% of the time monitoring this. May not get you an immediate response, if you do reach out at 2 a.m., but we're going to respond as soon as we see the message. And our typical response time is just under 2 minutes, right? So we're pretty responsive to this. Happy to help if you have any questions at all. I really appreciate your time going through this demo. Like I said, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and look forward to your feedback on the platform.